December 3rd, 2025, day 4 of retention. In this video, I'm going to share with you the number one reason why people do not make incredible transformations in their life, whether it's overcoming their bad habits, creating, massive life-changing results. It all comes down to this one thing. Growing up, my dad would constantly say to me, you become a product of your environment. Going into junior high, when I first started, discovering my sexual energy, and, you start having these hierarchies in elementary school, and where I went to school, there's a lot of gangsters, gang members, things of that nature. And so I started veering off. I started hanging out with those type of people. And my dad didn't know how to connect with me anymore. He didn't know how to guide me, to lead me, to make better decisions. So he would preach to me. And he would always say, you become a product of your environment. And at 11, 12, 13 years old, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I don't understand that metaphor. And so I end up hanging out with the gangsters. I end up getting in trouble. I end up dropping out of school. And thankfully, for him, he led and guided my life. But ultimately, he was right. You are a product of your environment. You become the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So the reason why most people never accomplish great things in their life is because they're hanging around losers. Remember, every morning when you come back into your body from your night's sleep, you are coming back into the game of life. This game is out to kill you. This is literally a game of life or death. Do or die. Do or do not. There is no try. So every move you make, every decision counts. You, and only you, are the creator of your reality. And therefore, the company that you keep will determine the direction of your life. The thoughts that you think, what you believe, the actions that you take, your overall attitude is greatly influenced by your circle, by your environment. So if you're out there hanging out with degenerates that are stuck at the same level, chasing their tail, you're going to be the average of those people. Personally, I look at things in percentages. So 99% of men on this planet are losing the game. They're weak physically, they're weak mentally, they're weak spiritually, they're weak emotionally. They are weak. They are losing the game. Period. Full stop. One of the biggest reasons why they're losing the game is because every morning, noon, and night, they are literally wasting their life force energy, the most powerful creative energy they have in their body. They are wasting it, spilling it, whether through jerking off, watching porn, meaningless sex, whatever it is, you're getting rid of it. Therefore, you're losing vitality, you're losing virility. You have nothing to fight for. So this is, at this stage of the game, 28 days left in the year of 2025, you need to, as a man, find something to fight for. You need to fight for yourself. You need to fight for your future. You know, I'm 43 years old. For those of you watching this who are in your 20s, you have a long life ahead of you. And if you don't figure this shit out, if you don't temper your principles, if you don't build your house on a strong foundation, your life is going to be very hard. And the 99 percentile of men end up settling for whatever they can get in life and leading lives of quiet desperation. So at some point in your life, you've got to make a decision. I'd rather be fucking dead than be like those people. Personally, because I made the decision a long time ago, back when I was a kid. I want nothing to do with these people because they're losing. They're not rich. They're not living a good life. I want to live the good life. I want to live the best life. In order to do that, you've got to do the opposite of what the masses are doing. So you've got to go into the cave. You've got to reprogram yourself. You've got to transform yourself in the cave. And that means you've got to cut off any and all relationships which are not in harmony with your vision, with the vision of the greatest form that you can imagine as a man for yourself, the life that you want to live. You got to cut them out. You don't have to hold some meeting telling people, hey, I'm not going to hang out with you guys anymore. You just say you're too busy. Hey, I'm too busy now. I've got goals, I've got work, I've got things to do. And eventually, they will stop calling. They will stop texting. They will get the clue. You've got to stop hanging around your family. If you've got a family with losers in it, people who don't dream big, they don't have goals, they don't have any ambition in their life, get away from them. This is why most people, most men, will never conquer themselves. They will never overcome their urges because they're surrounded by losers. They're surrounded by people who are happy with what they've got. They're not happy. They've just conceded to what they've got. If your dad's a loser, your dad's jerking off. Because your dad ain't fucking your mom. Your mom's fat and ugly. But your dad probably is too. And he's probably lusting over younger, more beautiful women. He's probably watching porn. He's probably jerking off just like you. And so are your friends. So you've got to cut it off for a period of time. You've got to go into the cave. You've got to isolate yourself for a period of time, up to a year or more, depending on how hard your journey is. What kind of programming you've got running in that brain of yours, depending on how strong your addiction is. Now, when I say you've got to go into isolation, you've got to go into solitude, what I'm saying more than anything is, again, cutting relationships off. Because if you've seen any of my other videos, especially my videos on, universal laws, universal principles, the Kabbalion, the science of getting rich, so on and so forth, a fundamental idea that I try to get people to understand is your reality. So your environment, your relationships, they are a reflection of you. As within, so without. So when my dad told me that you become a product of your environment, another way of looking at that is your environment is a reflection of you. So if you're hanging around losers, you're a loser. If you're hanging around people who are at a certain level of life, income, health, relationships, so on and so forth, that's where you're at. So you've got to cut it off. You've got to go into the cave. You've got to get specific, crystal clear about the man that you are committed to becoming. And then you've got to get to work. And when you're so busy, when your schedule is so booked out, because you've got to go to the gym, you've got to go to your 9 to 5, and then you've got to work on building your business. Then you've got to go out and network and things of that nature. You're too busy now to go and hang out, because you are recreating, you're reprogramming who you are. And let me tell you, it is not easy. That's why the difference between the 99 percentile and the 1% is 100 times. 100 times. The reason why the 1% are the 1% is because they're willing to do things 100 times harder than the 99%. They're willing to say no to eating certain foods. They're willing to say no to drinking alcohol. They're willing to say no to certain things. Whereas the 99%, they're all just unconscious, doing whatever feels good in the moment, seeking pleasure rather than creating happiness. I just finished Dan Bilzerian's book, The Setup, yesterday. Incredible book. I finished it in 2 days. I mean, it's such a great story. Man, his way of breaking his life down into these stories is phenomenal. But he lived a life of total hedonism, a complete sex addict, which he probably still is. But he got to a point where he realized that, hey, pleasure and happiness are completely separate, completely different. Happiness comes from doing what's right, helping others, becoming a man of greatness, a man of righteousness, a man of virtue. And pleasure is sin. When you're just constantly seeking a life of pleasure, drugs, sex, rock and roll, laziness, comfort, you will always be left empty-handed. It doesn't matter how many chicks you've slept with. I am not even close to Dan's number. But I've slept with hundreds of girls. And let me tell you, in the end, it's empty. So empty. Where when you're done, if you even know their name, sometimes you don't even know their name. All you want is for them to get out of your bed. Or when you're going on a bender, you know, drinking a bunch, doing a bunch of drugs, you're left feeling empty. Not only are you empty, but you are depleted of life force. So, not to digress too much, but this is a very important topic. You know, this is the reason why most people stay stuck. This is why most people on their deathbed regret not having given it all they've got, becoming the man they know they're capable of becoming. We all have it. We all have within us an image of our greatest, highest form. Now, sometimes we get quite disconnected from that image, from that potential. Sometimes, because it's beaten out of us, especially as children. But in everything, whether it's the grass, whether it's the tree, every material thing, every conscious thing, especially men and women, have an innate desire to get and be better. So you have it within you. The key is to get in touch with it, to reignite it. And by cutting out distraction, by cutting out the old relationships, because remember, they are you. They are a reflection of you. They are quite literally you being reflected back to yourself. You've got to cut it out. You've got to go into the cave, go into the laboratory, and get to work recreating yourself. I would say that's the hardest obstacle or challenge on this journey, is the isolation, is the solitude. Because the higher you climb this mountain, the lonelier it gets, because most people aren't willing to do this. You know, I don't know what I did in my past lives, but in this life, I've spent a lot of time alone ever since I was a kid. I've always been a loner, always. So for me, it's not really that hard. I don't have a lot of friends. I may have a lot of acquaintances, a lot of people who know me, but I don't have a lot of friends, people who are very close to me, people that I see often. I don't have a lot of time for other people. My life is scheduled out. And the more I go, the more I walk this path, the less time I have for others, because I value my time. That is the one thing you cannot get more of. So how you invest it is vitally important. What are you doing every day, hour by hour? Are you wasting your time? Or are you wisely investing your time into becoming the greatest man you can be? I know for me, like I said, I would rather be dead than be average, because there's nothing there. I've already experienced too much. I'm too awake now to ever want to go and be like them. And God bless them, there's nothing wrong with them. There's just levels to this game. And I want to play at the very top. I strive to be a 0.1% man. So you've got to look at yourself in the mirror, and you've got to ask yourself, at what level do I want to play the game? Do I want to be like everybody else? Just jerking off, wasting my time, wasting my money, wasting my life force, just comfortably numb until the day I die? Or do you want to be a warrior? Do you want to go out and you want to give it hell? Because the only opponent that you have in this life is the one that stares back at you at the mirror. Because that's the person you must overcome. All of their shortcomings, all of their addictions, you must overcome them to be the man that you're capable of becoming. So, in these first 4 videos, I've been sharing with you my story. I've been sharing with you, kind of my perspective on this journey. That this is not a journey about, hey, how long can I go? It's about becoming someone entirely different. An entirely different character in this simulation, in this game. Yesterday, I talked about finding some men that you look up to, that you admire, even fictional characters, James Bond, Andrew Tate, Batman, whoever it is. Find those men, write out their qualities that you admire. Because what you want to start doing is you want to start imagining what your life would look like if you lived with those qualities, with those attributes. If you were committed, if you were disciplined, if you were a killer, if you were outspoken, if you were bold, if you were confident, if you were strong, if you were tough, what would you look like? What sort of actions would you take? Because you've got to form, you've got to create an image in your mind of the man that you're capable of becoming, who possesses and expresses those qualities, those attributes. But more than anything, you've got to be willing to burn your ships. You've got to be willing to go into the cave, to go into the darkness, to go into solitude, to go into isolation. You've got to be willing to cut off contact with relationships that are not going where you're going. Because you've got to see that most people, probably all of your relationships, they are in the 99 percentile. So, in tomorrow's video, we're going to start putting this together. So, if you made it this far, in the comments, I want you to comment vision, meaning you now have a vision of who you are committed to becoming, the man that you're committed to becoming, your highest form in 2026. Because tomorrow we're going to start putting it all together. We're going to start creating a step-by-step plan so that your schedule is booked out. You don't have time to hang out with your loser friends anymore. Your friends that are just drifting through life. That year after year they're losing ambition little by little. Because let me tell you, I'm 43 years old. And if you do not stoke that fire, if you don't consistently add fuel to that fire goes out. I see people around me, around my same age bracket, they've lost their ambition. They've lost their drive. They've fallen back into drifting. And once it's got you, it's going to sweep you away. Also, I've mentioned this before, we've got a school community, a Discord community of like-minded men. Men who want to and who are committed to becoming 0.1% men. Men who want to become the greatest form, the greatest ideal of themselves. So check out that link. Link is in the bio. A lot of incredible tools, a lot of resources. Like I said, a community. And we turn this into a game. A real game. A game that you play every day. So check that out. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.